Hello friends, a warm welcome and thanks so much for joining us today. If you've ever looked in the mirror the first thing in the morning and thought, how did that happen overnight? Or if you're using the same makeup techniques you used in your 20s and 30s and realizing they aren't working quite as well for you anymore, but you're not sure what to do differently, or if you just simply love the fun of working with makeup, you've definitely come to the right place. My name is Elise, and I'm so excited to share with you makeup tips, techniques, and products, specifically for those of us with mature skin who are 50, 60, 70, 80, and beyond. As a former makeup artist for a major cosmetics company, a current professional working makeup artist, and a woman who has started her own business, I have worked for the past 6 years teaching makeup classes, doing individual consultations, and working with literally hundreds of women to help them look on the outside how they feel on the inside, so they can look and feel their confident best. I'm passionate about doing this, and I'm so hoping that you'll join me on this journey in the weeks and months ahead. I hope you'll subscribe to the channel and click on the bell icon below the video to your right, and you'll receive notifications every time we do a new video, which will be every Thursday. Today, I'm so excited to begin a 4-part series called Makeup Secrets for Beautiful Eyes. Today, we're going to be talking about eyebrows, but in the coming weeks, we're going to be covering eyeshadow, what eyeshadow looks best with what eye color. We're going to be talking about eyeliner, which can be really tricky to use, but I have some tips and techniques that I think you'll find much easier and which are very effective. And we'll also be talking about those under eye area challenges that we all seem to have and how we can deal with those as well. So let's dive in. We'll talk about eyebrows, and eyebrows are really underrated in terms of how important they are to how we look. As a matter of fact, there was a very interesting research study done in the last couple of years that looked at hundreds of people across all different ethnicities to determine what really made us more attractive to other people. And what makes us the most attractive is facial contrast. And what happens as we start to get a little bit older? We lose that facial contrast. Our brows become lighter, sometimes some white and gray creeps in there. And we need to up our look with our eyebrows in order to look our best. Our eyebrows frame our face. They really make our eyes the star of the show. So it's really important to have them looking their best. So today we're going to talk about different tools we can use for our eyebrows that work well. We're going to talk about different techniques we can use, and also we're going to talk about different types of products and talk about some specific good ones as well as some at a higher end and at more of a drugstore cost as well. So stay tuned for that. So let's dive in first and talk about different tools that we can use. And most of these you're going to be familiar with, but of course they're these little guys, because have you ever noticed that occasionally you just have a hair that seems to have sprouted up overnight that's so much longer? The good thing to do is to press against where that hair is and then get those scissors out, and don't trim real far down, just trim a tiny bit off, because our tendency is to press that hair a little bit so we're stretching it, and then when we let loose of it, it comes back down, and sometimes we realize we've cut off more than we really wanted to. So less is more in this instance. So you want to just cut off a little bit. You can always trim a little bit more. The second tool I want to talk about is another one that we're all pretty darn familiar with, those tweezers. And I love the slanted ones, at least for me. They seem to work a little bit better. I think we're all different in that regard. But the tweezers, the good news is we probably don't have to use them as much as we used to. But it's still important to get those little stray eyebrow hairs that do seem to pop up. So you do want to keep those tweezers on hand. The third tool that is extremely important is this one. It's an angled brush. That works very well to put on eyebrow powder and pomade. And at the other end of this tool, I have what's called a spoolie, which looks like a mascara wand. And actually, you could use an old mascara wand that you've cleaned and sanitized. But what a spoolie does, it's very effective in taking off any excess product. And also, as you pull it through after you've applied your eyebrow product, it makes your brows look more natural. So it works extremely well whether you're using gels or powders or a pomade to help your eyebrows look their best. So really encourage you to invest in one of these. They're not expensive. I love the convenience of having the spoolie on one end and the angle brush on the other, but you can buy them separately as well. So let's dive into different techniques for eyebrows. I'm going to take this spoolie, as a matter of fact, and I'm going to be looking down at a magnifying mirror, so I apologize, but I'm sure most of you understand the need for a magnifying mirror. I'm going to be brushing up on those eyebrow hairs, and as I do that, I can see some that I probably need to trim a little bit, but for right now, I'm using a gel to keep them in place. But that can help us look at what we need to be doing in the way of trimming any stray hairs. Also, what it does is it puts the eyebrows in shape for the next technique I want to mention, and that is taking an eyebrow pencil. And in this case, I'm using a very thin one. I think that probably works the best, but you can use any eyebrow pencil. And this also happens to be an automatic one. And I'm going to trace along the top edge of my eyebrows with this pencil. So what I'm doing is I'm trying to create basically a pattern, an outline for where I should fill in my brows. And I'm going to do this on the bottom of my brows as well. As you'll notice, I'm doing this with a very light hand. I'm hardly putting any product on at all. I'm just trying to provide a shape, and I'll fill my eyebrows in within that shape. And then I'll take my spoolie and I'll brush it through. Okay, the other thing we want to think about in terms of technique is the color that we want to use on our brows. If we have dark brow hair and dark hair, we probably want to match the color of our brows or go one shade lighter. If we have very light brows, we probably want to match our brows or go one shade darker. That can really make a difference for those with very light brows. And so you may be wondering, so what do I do if I have white or gray brows? Well, there are two different things that you can try, and it really depends on what your preference is. I was just doing a class a few weeks ago, and there was a woman who wanted to just try out to see what would work best for her. And we tried both the gray and the taupe. She ended up liking the taupe a little bit better. It just was a little more natural looking for her, but we're all different in that regard. So a taupe eyebrow pencil can look very good and work very well. Or they do make gray eyebrow pencils. They're hard to find, but there are some brands that make them. CoverGirl does. And there's a more expensive brand called IT Cosmetics. They also make a gray eyebrow pencil. What I do want to let you know is you probably want to just apply it very lightly to begin with, because most of them are a fairly dark gray color, and if you have lighter brows, you may just want a lighter gray color. So depending on how hard you press, you can get either a light or a darker color. So let's talk about various eyebrow products. And probably the one that's most familiar to most of us is an eyebrow powder. And let me pull out one that I have here. This particular one has two different shades in it, which is kind of nice because our brows aren't all exactly one color either. So it also, if your eyebrow is sort of in between two shades, you can mix these shades together. That can work really well. What's nice about powders, and you can also just get one shade in an eyebrow powder product. What's nice about powders is they apply very easily, probably the easiest of all the eyebrow products to use. And you can take that angled brush and apply it and then run a spoolie through it and you're probably good to go. However, if you are missing some eyebrow hairs, your eyebrows are a little sparser and you have some bare skin, powder doesn't adhere terribly well to bare skin. There are some other options that are better that we'll talk about. And frankly, if you live in a hot and humid climate and you might be wiping your forehead area or having some perspiration drip down, sometimes that can really interfere with brow powder. It's not as long lasting as other products. And also if you swim, it probably is not going to stay on for you. So the way you can solve that and go with a longer lasting product is to go with an eyebrow pencil. And there are thin ones, there are thick ones, as we talked about earlier. There are automatic ones, and then there are ones that you have to sharpen. And again, that's really a matter of personal preference. The pencils are quick and easy. You can mimic little brow strokes with pencils. They adhere well to bare skin because they have somewhat of a waxy quality to them as well. The automatic pencils that you can just turn the opposite end and it will pull up a little bit more pencil for you. Those do get dull, but if you get a thin one, that really doesn't matter so much. So pencils are a good way to go. Another option, and this is one that's probably less known than the other ones, is an eyebrow pomade or cream. It comes usually in a little glass jar like this. They are made by brands that are less expensive and more expensive. Some good, less expensive brands are Maybelline, that makes a pomade, and NYX. And this one that I have here is a little bit on the more expensive side. It's called Anastasia of Beverly Hills. And those makeup brands that I mentioned, Maybelline, NYX, and Anastasia, probably make the widest variety of any different eyebrow products, along with Benefit. That's another one. Every makeup brand does make eyebrow products, but not all of them have brow pomades or the thicker and thinner pencils. So if you really want the widest array of products, NYX and Anastasia Beverly Hills are probably the ones you want to go with. And if you have auburn colored hair, it's very difficult sometimes to find a color that matches. And Anastasia of Beverly Hills does have every conceivable color of eyebrow product. The other thing you can do as well, that I just want to mention, is with this matte eyeshadow palette, you can certainly mix your own color so you can come up with an eyebrow color that might be difficult to find a match for. So using shadow in addition to pomades or pencils work very well. And then I also want to mention eyebrow gels. What gels do is they keep your eyebrow hair in place. So if you have some wiry eyebrow areas, it works very well. And as you can see, there's a little brush here, tiny little brush, that works really well to lightly pull over the brows and blend in. And so you're killing two birds with one stone. With this one, you do have a nice color intensity with it, so that will fill in your brows with color, and it will also keep those eyebrow hairs in place. There are some gels that are just clear, that are just made to keep the brow hair in place, but I kind of like the idea of both putting tint on and a gel at the same time that keeps the eyebrow hairs in place. A couple of other kinds of products I just want to mention briefly. There are products that keep the eyebrows in place longer. This one is called Wonder-Brow, spelled W-U-N-D-E-R, and it comes in a brush format. Let me pull this out for you. And there is a lot of product on that brush, as you can see. So a little goes a very long way. You want to just put a little dab on there, and I know from experience you just want to use a little dab and then pull it through your eyebrows with an angled brush or the spoolie. That will stay on for 3 whole days. However, if you're like me and you sometimes forget that's what you put on and you clean your eyebrows, of course it's not going to stay on. So just have to remember that that's what you put on that day. There are also eyebrow growth products. There are many of them on the market, and many of them work very well. And I tried one about a year ago, and frankly, I loved it. I was thrilled that after about 4 or 5 weeks, I was able to see that eyebrow hair growing back in, and it was dark, which really surprised me. I loved it. But then what happened was that while I was using it, I had 3 different episodes where I had a blood vessel break in my eye. As a matter of fact, the last one popped, and it was so loud I could hear it, and it startled me. That really unnerved me a bit. And when I stopped using the growth serum, I stopped having that issue. Now, it may have been just a coincidence that that happened. It may be that I'm just more sensitive to the ingredients in those products. I know a lot of women who have used those products with no problem whatsoever, but I just wanted to mention this as a caveat in thinking about using a product like that. All right, I think we've pretty much covered eyebrows and all the different techniques, products, and tools. I hope you found it helpful. And in the coming weeks, as I mentioned, we're going to be talking about all different things to get beautiful eyes, makeup secrets for beautiful eyes. We have eyeshadow coming up, we have eyeliner coming up, as well as dealing with those under eye issues. And on some Thursdays, I'm going to invite in other 50-plus women, and we're going to be doing mini makeovers so you can see different application types and techniques on people with different and interesting challenges. So hopefully you can find people that have the same kinds of issues and challenges that you do that will be helpful for you. I hope so. At least that's the plan. Thank you so much for being with me today. I really appreciate your joining me. I know there are a lot of other things you could be doing with your time, and I hope that in the coming weeks you'll join me and subscribe and look forward to future videos. And I hope right now you might take a couple of minutes to comment in the comment section below, because I'd love to hear your thoughts on what future topics you'd like me to deal with and cover. And I'd also love to know your favorite eyebrow products. It's always wonderful to share products with each other so we can let each other know about some really good products that we might want to try. Thanks again for joining us. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day and stay fabulous.